Welcome everybody to Tiger Claw Radio 175. Alright, so we got the tasting of the games to talk about. The Nintendo Switch has done something a bit silly with their cartridges that is all the rage to discuss, and will be no different. We're going to talk about that just a little bit. Just when I thought we were done talking about the Switch, back in the news again. Also, there's a new character that appeared on Street Fighter V since I stopped playing it. So I'm going to go in and take a look at that. And also, we've got modern computers hooked up to old tiny monitors for gaming purposes. We'll see how that went as well. All right, everybody. I was not sure how this was going to work out, but music has always been a part of Tiger Claw Radio. And even now that I'm on YouTube, rights are a touchy thing, but all of the music that appears on chipmusic.org has been published in a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivative Works license. So I can play it here because this is a non-commercial product, and I can voluntarily provide attribution to the artists, which is what I'll do. I want to help these people. They make great products that we can just enjoy freely. This is from the artist Jellica over at chipmusic.org, and it's a really dancey track. The title is a jumble of letters, side RMX 43, and the description is just a bit of fun with a C64 and a Roland TR-8. A very dancey track. I think this is a good one to get the show going. So the very first full chip music song to appear on the YouTube edition of Tiger Claw Radio. All right, guys. See you on the other side. Did you guys know that Tiger Claw Radio is on Patreon? If I can get my Patreon support up to $20 a month, we will return to weekly service. Think about it. Support TCR. The Nintendo Switch looks exactly like the Ouya. The silver and black controllers with the stripe in the middle, and the red, just like Ouya had that red banner. I can't believe they overlooked this. Alright, memers. Nintendo Switch is the new Ouya. Get on it. Good friend of the show, Hemrock, just pointed out the GOG.com spring sale. So I popped over this morning and took a look. As you guys might know, I'm more of a Steam person, but there were a few odds and ends I wanted to pick up in the spring sale all the same. GOG, depending on the era of game you're in, there are a few games that it has that are nowhere else. I got the Wing Commander 1 and 2 along with Wing Commander Privateer. The only other place I know where to get those is EA Origins, and I'm not much of a fan of EA Origins. I also picked up, reluctantly, the first 3 Ultima games. This was after I wrote an article about Ultima, probably about 5 years ago, when Ultima first went for sale on GOG. Ultima being for sale, to me, marked the death of abandonware. There was no longer a need for abandonware in mass the way it was in the late 90s, because those games were now, the rights were being obtained by competent distributors, and they're being sold. And it was the end of an era, something I wasn't too happy about, because I adored the abandonware era. Nonetheless, the Ultima trilogy, the first 3 games dropped down to $1.50. I picked them up. Truth be told, Ultima 1 will probably be the only one I play. But I wanted to get all the feelies. I wanted to get the things that come in the box. One of the things that GOG does very, very well is the soundtracks and the instruction manuals. And I guess, to be fair, Steam will give you a PDF instruction manual, but GOG tends to have them beat in the extras department. Finally, I got SimCity 3000. I mentioned this, I think, last time, but I've been in kind of a city builder game craze in my household lately. SimCity 3000 is only available on GOG. Nowhere else can you get this game unless you get on eBay and get yourself a CD copy. So I believe that completes my SimCity collection for the most part. I got SimCity 2000 in a big box a little less than 10 years ago. Unfortunately, I had space issues. I couldn't hold on to the box, but I still have the CD. And I've got SimCity 4 in a physical edition as well, but I've got that on all sorts of digital platforms. So that's cool. I haven't played 3000 in a long time, probably about 10 years. So I will be installing that and playing that as well. Is that better? Let's see if it goes out. No, I think we're good. All right, let's go to the internet rumor mill. I've heard talk about Steam getting ready to phase out Steam Greenlight. I don't know what they're replacing it with, and I don't know if it's solidified yet. But as of right now, if you want to get a game on Steam Greenlight, you have to pay $100 for the listing as a listing fee. This was brought on by Steam, the Greenlight initial release, where people would just upload fake games just for attention. So the $100 fee was sort of a way of sifting out people who weren't serious about releasing a game. But now we run into this issue of products that, yes, the developers want to sell them, but nobody wants to buy them, i.e. asset flippers. Asset flippers, and I'd hate to say it, but just games with no talent, developers who are slopping things together. And I'd hate to say that about another human being who's actually trying to make a game. But if you've ever played on the Xbox 360, the Xbox Live indie games, you know what I'm talking about. These games get thrown together. They use I think the big one that's hot right now is the asset packs that you buy from Unity, I guess. Those need to be sifted out as well. So personally, I think the only way to do this is with manual curation. There has to be an approval process, checks and balances, where human eyes view the game and make a decision, yes or no. But the rumor that I'm hearing is that in order to do this, they're going to raise the listing fee to upwards of $5,000. I remember reading an article recently from the developers of Recettear that if that fee was in place when Recettear came out, we would not have Recettear. So the other night, I also appear on the Next Round podcast, which we recorded last weekend. And I have a few games that were assigned to me to play and review. All right, and one of those games was Lords of the Realm 2. Now, Lords of the Realm 2 is available on GOG.com and on Steam, but it was originally, I don't know when it came out. I mean, I could go look it up. But the feel of the game is very old school Sierra, very 90s computing. This is an old game. So I thought to fully get into the game, trying to avoid using the word immersed, fully immersed. About as immersed as you could be without playing the game in the bathtub. I disconnected my monitor, my 23-inch widescreen monitor, and I reconnected an old flat screen monitor I got with an eMachines computer. I don't know exactly what the native resolution is, but we're talking about 4:3 aspect ratio. And I thought, hey man, I got old games on Steam. Let's give it a shot. And it looked really great. I had a good experience playing this game, Lords of the Realm 2. Now, specifically what I thought of the game, you'll have to catch the next episode of the Next Round, or I guess two episodes from the next one, to hear what I thought about that particular game. But I gotta say, I enjoyed that enough that after I played it, I opened up my Steam, and I utilized the categories function a great deal. So I made a new category called the Old Monitor Collection. And these are games where the resolution is designed for a 4:3 aspect ratio, but not just that it's designed for that's what you get when you play, and it's difficult to change. Like, there's certain games that were designed for that initially, but you can change it easily enough in the start menu, or I play it with a source port and it is changed that way. Those games I did not add. So I didn't add Doom, I didn't add Quake, I didn't add Heretic, I didn't add Hexen. All those games I play with source ports, so they didn't qualify. What I did add, give me a second here, I'm going to restart Steam because I think this might be worth discussing. Old monitor. First of all, there's 95 items in this collection now. Wowie zowie. I didn't realize I had this many games to put on it. But most notably was Morrowind. Morrowind, I've always had to play in a window. At least the last several months of Monday Night Morrowind were all recorded in a window because of the wide aspect ratio, or the narrow aspect ratio. I'm not going to go over all these games, but it was nice. A lot of these games I avoid playing because of that, so it's really nice to group them together and have another way to enjoy my Steam account. Like, I got the Jagged Alliance games in here, Free Space 2, and some crappy games too, like Ducati World Championship is another one that just doesn't look right on a widescreen monitor, but it's a terrible game, so whatever. I feel like there was more in here worth going over. I guess not. A lot of the early 3D, a lot of the games from the 3D Realms pack are in here. Cosmos Comic Adventure, the Commander Keen games, although those weren't from that pack. Duke Nukem 1 and 2, the old Duke Nukem games. Hook up an old monitor and load your Steam collection. It worked out well. Worked out well for me. Okay, so in addition to that, what else is going on? River City Ransom is out on Steam. What happened? Why did it take this long? I talked about this on the next round, and I talked about it with my older brother today. Just to give you some back history, River City Ransom as a child was my favorite game. And it was my favorite game of all time. I believe it still is. My favorite games of all time are River City Ransom on the Nintendo, the NES, and Wizardry 5 on the Super Nintendo. Those are my two favorite games of all time. Now, if you're not familiar with River City Ransom, it was a game that came out. It was part of a series in Japan, but we didn't get the series. We just got that game over here. So there were several games that used the art style that were seemingly disconnected. Like, there's a game called Crash and the Boys Street Challenge, which used the same art style, and the characters from River City Ransom were in it. And there was a sequel, I can't think of the name of it, that didn't come out in the States. But anyway, it was a game that kind of stood all on its own, that I really, really liked as a kid. And now we have like a real successor. There was one on the Game Boy Advance, probably in the mid-2000s. But I just feel like I kind of feel the same thing as when the NES Mini was coming out. It's like I'm trying to get excited, but I can't feel anything anymore. I can't feel anything. I want to feel things. I want to be excited. But I don't know. I will still probably buy it. My older brother said he saw somebody stream it and they got bored after 20 minutes. So hopefully that won't be me. You never know. If it is in fact the case, I'll try not to be upset. Let's see. I just got a message on Steam from Alex Swingle. Indie Gala is giving away that Axel game you wanted. It should be around the store page. All right. Thank you, Alex. More Indie Gala giveaways. Let's see. All right. So we did modern PC on the old monitor. There are a couple of updates. Okay, here's another good one. Steam rolled out an update the last time I loaded it up, and there were two options, or two notes in it that I think were worth mentioning on the air of the podcast. Now, one, not so much. They removed sign-on notifications for friends who are already online or in-game when you first sign in, which is a good way to cut down on the notifications. If I get on and Alex is playing a game, right, and then he stops playing and starts playing again and stops and clicks around a little bit, now I won't get 100 messages. It's just Alex is on. That's it. That's all you need to know. But here's the one that I think is the most interesting. They added a setting to disable group event and announcement notifications. So if you there were instances like this where I had to leave groups because they had a lot of announcements that I didn't care about and it was bothering me, so I had to leave the group. Now you can turn those off. It's great to have more control over Steam groups. It seems like if you turn those off, then Steam groups will mean even less now. So I don't know. I don't know, but that's the thing. So if Steam group messages are bothering you, then go into your settings and see if you can turn them off, because apparently they've added a setting to do that. And that is Steam Dev News. I've got a few more things I'm going to go over, some recent pickups and whatnot. I'm still building my own secondary computer. Let's do another chiptune. Since we're 20 minutes in, we'll play a second chiptune, and then we'll go over that stuff. So this is a really chilled out track that I very much enjoy. It's very quiet and super bassy, but it's got a nice rhythm to it, and I think it's worthy. Especially if you're listening in the morning on the way to work. This is a good morning on the way to work song, and it's ironically called Moonset, and it's from Clam, Klamm, and you can get the MP3 over at chipmusic.org if you so desire. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. I'm sorry, I thought the song was fading out. Usually you can tell by the wave pattern, but I guess I started recording too early. Oh well. Too late to fix it now. I want to make sure this gets done and gets out. Just a couple of quick notes, then we'll do the fail bag. I wanted to talk about the Nintendo games and the way they tasted. I mentioned that at the top of the show. I'm sure you've heard of this by now. Nintendo has added a taste to their cartridges to dissuade people from eating them. They've added a bittering agent to the plastic, so if you taste the plastic, it tastes bad. And our dear friend and scientist, Jerry Terrifying of Mondo Coolcast, has tried this and described it for us. His series, Videos of Acquired Games, Good Old Vag, is he talked about it on the most recent episode, and he said 45 minutes later you could still taste the taste in his mouth. So what's weird about this is that it's like, all right, guys, Nintendo Game Licking Challenge on YouTube. Go! What a... don't eat video games, kids. I think this is so silly. It's silly because there was time spent on development of what to put in the plastic to keep the kids from eating it. And in the same conversation I heard this, I also heard that that after you put the case, the switch in and out of the charger docking station a few times, it scratches the screen. I don't know how true that is, but I look at pictures of this thing and I can totally see that happening. And I'm noticing a trend. With the exception of Hemrock being excited to play it at PAX, the more I hear about the Switch, the less I'm really interested in getting one. The controllers are strange looking. The ones that look normal cost a ton of money. You have to pay for online connectivity. Now there's bits about the screen being weird. I don't know, Nintendo Switch. I'm really not on board with this thing. I'm really not. But we'll see. I always have to leave the caveat that I could be wrong. And that's because, especially now, I thought the 3DS was going to be a failure. I really did. When the 3DS came out, I was like, there's no way. There's no way people are going to buy this banana add-on that adds a second stick. There's no way. And I was really, really wrong at that. That was a system. They charged an awful lot for it, but it stuck around. Alright, I think that's everything. There was a new character in Street Fighter V, but I haven't been into Street Fighter V in a while, so let's take a look. I've played through the story mode, and it's Street Fighter V character colon KOLIN. I'll have to load this up and see if that makes additional story modes for me to play through. Possibly. We will see. The Phantasm of Snow and Ice, joins Street Fighter V. That happened on February 9th. So she's been around for just about a month today. Yeah, so I guess that's old news. But this is Tiger Claw Radio for March. So, considering it's a monthly show at this point, I guess it's just about on point for us. I played... Street Fighter V is a punishing game. It can be. And I played it a couple of times when I just needed a win, and I just didn't get it. So I had to give it up for a while. Last night, I loaded up one of the X games. The X games being the space exploration and space trading flight sim. X3 Terran Conflict. I loaded up. And I'm kind of excited to dive into that. But alright. We are 28 minutes in, and I want to make sure the letters get read. It's time for the fail bag. Now, I don't have my core TCR assets set up yet, as you probably heard, with a total lack of the old-fashioned introduction. But yeah, this is the fail bag. This is the time where if you want to interact with the show, this is on YouTube. Just leave a comment. That works. I also post this on thenextround.net. Which is a site run by some very good friends of mine, where we all contribute content to kind of make a playground, for us to hang out and check out each other's work, make it a little easier. So you can leave a comment on the next round, leave a comment right here on the YouTube, and that works just fine. Let's see what we got. All right, so there were two on the next round. One from Death Adder, who writes, "By Odin's beard, after 6 months in exile, the master of the Tiger Claw has awakened." It was nice to hear your love for Street Fighter V. I have not played it, and honestly, I could never get into Street Fighter 4. It just felt like I was playing Street Fighter 2 for the 1 billionth time. Hashtag shots fired. I did recently play the newest Killer Instinct, and it was the most fun I've had playing a fighter in years. The gameplay, the characters, the atmosphere were all perfect. I mean, where else could you play as a velociraptor fighting a robot man while the announcer screams at you? It's awesome. There is even an RPG-style single-player mode for when I got tired of getting my ass kicked online. I kind of want to get a stick for it, but I know that my big old clumsy Harambe hands, I don't know how I got that wrong, are more cut out for gripping a controller. Unfortunately, there isn't a proper Xbox One fight pad available until May, and I choose the normal Xbone One controller for fighting games. Is like choosing Dan in Street Fighter. Also, excellent interview. Listening to the gentleman who went to PAX made me feel like I was there, full immersion style. The Switch should be interesting. Death Adder, my good friend, thanks for writing in. Oh boy, let's talk about Street Fighter V versus Street. You said Street Fighter 4 you couldn't quite get into. Mechanically, Street Fighter V and Street Fighter 4 are miles apart. Street Fighter V is way more fluid, way more balanced, and I equate it much more to Street Fighter 3. Excuse me. Street Fighter 4 felt like always a half step slow for me. Half step slow, and there was also serious balancing issues in my opinion. My friend Angie constantly played as girl character who I can't remember her name. I don't know. She had that spinny kick, and I couldn't figure out how to counter it, and it was terrible. I don't know. I'm just having more fun with 5. Also, 5 has skill-based matchmaking, which did an awful lot for Counter-Strike, and I think it's doing it for Street Fighter as well. So you can play online, and it's more like you'll find somebody just around your skill level. Now, it's not the only game to do that, I know, but it does it well enough to complement the system to make it so you can actually play online and have some good fun with it. There's things I like. I think it's been better than Street Fighter 4. But there's still people playing Street Fighter 4. So it's really to taste. For sure. So what did you say? The newest Killer Instinct. What system is the newest Killer Instinct for? I mean, I know you're more of a console guy. So I guess that'd be PS4. I don't know, man. I never huge got into Killer Instinct. Even back in the day. Like, Angie had it on Super Nintendo, and the couple of times I remember going to a local arcade, my older brother and I played it. I think it was Killer Instinct 2. We played in the arcade a few times, but that was one game it didn't quite charm me as much as it charmed other people. But that's cool. Now let's talk about your enormous Harambe hands. If you've got big hands, arcade sticks are the way to go. Big hands need big buttons that are far apart. If you're going to go with a controller, for that same reason, I would also recommend the Fight controller as soon as one's available, so that you have great big giant buttons for mammoth fingers. I wish I could make the Fight stick work. I'm just not good at it. They're amazing for shmups. They really are. I love turning my monitor on its side and playing Ikaruga with an arcade stick. That's amazing. Just can't do the fighting games. All right. So let's move on to the Gaming Beast, who also left a comment on thenextround.net. He says, I enjoys this one immensely as well. I've been playing the old DOS dungeon crawler called Crystals of Aboria. Needed to draw a map of the cave dungeon on graph paper, so listening to the podcast was perfect as the game does not have music and very little sound. As someone who grew up with fighting games in the 16-bit era, I agree, they were more casual. However, I do remember fighting games even back then becoming more complex and more challenging. Weapon Lord comes to mind, which was made for competitive and had support for the early SNES Modern MP add-on. I've also been playing Street Fighter Alpha 2 recently, and I could see the differences already in my all-time favorite SF2 Turbo. Gonna stop this right here, Dorapka. Gotta stop this in the middle, because if I don't stop, it's not gonna happen. I'm gonna see if the GOG sale is still on. The one I mentioned earlier. Yes, 20 hours to go. You mentioned Street Fighter Alpha 2. I wants that. I'm just gonna check and see if it's possibly on sale. Yes! $1.99. I'm getting Street Fighter Alpha 2 on GOG tonight. This is happening tonight. I'm also picking up what else is in my cart. I got a couple things waiting in my cart. Echelon Book 1 is free. I saw that. Oh, I want to talk about that. Ultimate Body Blows, Durabka, you talked about that. That's 89 cents. Getting that as well. Echelon Book 1, Ultimate Body Blows, and Street Fighter Alpha 2. Getting all that later on tonight. Thanks for the email. You reminded me about that while there was still time. All right, let's get back to the letter. I would like to get a fun. Let's see. I've been playing Street Fighter Alpha 2 recently, and I can see the differences already. And my all-time favorite is SF2 Turbo. I'd like to get a fighting stick myself, but I'm not sure if I would be that good with it. Would be cool for MAME games, though. Really need to check out your Mugen vids. It's awesome that you made some. Should make some myself, too, again. Man, I hope I can make it to MagFest one of these days before it becomes really lame. When Hemrock talked about RPG games at PAX, I thought we should play again, man. It's been too long. The last edition of D&D, 5th edition, is pretty sweet, and it's much more simplified. I think you'll like it. I'm really not interested in Pathfinder anymore. Playing or running an RPG at a con might be cool. I've heard some good and bad stuff. Sadly, the only nerd cons in my area is an anime con, and I don't think I'm kawaii enough. A lot of microwave Jigglypuff, if you know what I mean. I could not care less for the Switch. It feels like another gimmick with dated tech, like the Wii and the Wii U. I'm fine with my PC at the moment. Either way, it's sweet that you're active again, broski. P.S. Question of the week. Swingle, our great bundle pope, gave me Click Team Fusion, and I like the engine so far. Have you tried it? What do you think? Awesome that you have Click Team Fusion. I looked at it a little bit. I think there's potential there, and I'd love to collaborate and get something out. I think that'd be great. What kind of games have you been making? I honestly, it's been a while since I messed with it. I did a lot with Click and Play in my youth. I think there's some potential there. I need to get a simple engine going. I think the meat for me is going to be spriting on my tablets. I would like to be able to draw sprites on my tablets while I'm out and about that I could come home and plug into a game. So we'll see. We'll see, man. I think that would be a good one to discuss in the future. We could have segments on a Click Team Fusion game and how the progress is going. But I think that's a great place to start, is Click Team Fusion. So yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed as well. I think there's some serious potential there. You know, we're not going to be making the next big thing, you know, but we could learn it enough to put together a game that's fun, you know, and experience a little bit of the art, the expression side of making games in our own way, which I think is becoming increasingly important as the voice of free speech gets stifled under the PC thought police. I think it's really great to learn those tools and make the games that we want to make. The 1980s action movie, The Game, which I think, although it has been done, it has not been done enough. Let's do it more. So that's what I think of Click Team Fusion. Let's address some of the other things in the mail. Crystals of Aboria I've never heard of, but you said it's a DOS dungeon crawler, so I am in, brother. You talked about some 16-bit fighting games. I have, let's see. So you picked Street Fighter 2 Turbo, which is not an uncommon choice if I understand things correctly. Let's see. Yeah, I get really sketchy when it comes to the 16-bit fighting games because I wasn't into them back then. I really wasn't. All that stuff I learned about in retrospect, especially the Street Fighter series for the Genesis, because I know that there's a bunch of those games. And the only one of those that I have is the original Street Fighter 2 or vanilla Street Fighter 2 for Super Nintendo. And I remember that game, and I say I remember because I haven't played it in a long time. I remember that being very slow. It was super slow, dude. And as far as games like that being competitive, I don't know I'm sure you've experienced this as well, but being a kid and going to a friend's house who knew how to play Mortal Kombat 3, the complexity in the combos for those games was beyond me. It really felt like I was in the middle of like I was trying to take on some champions and not even getting a hit in, and my friends are just brutal. So that was that's how I remember the early Mortal Kombat games. I was going to my friend's house and getting my butt whooped. I think probably the most fun, I'm not saying this is my favorite of the 16-bit fighting games, but the most fun I had with one was Mortal Kombat 2 for the Super Nintendo. I actually did okay with that with my older brothers, because I played with my older brother, and we would play against each other. And he was better than me, but the skill level was close enough that I could still have fun. I knew like a small handful of the fatalities, and we played a game once where it was the Street Fighter Death Tournament. So you had a full roster, and if you lost in a match and had a fatality pulled on you, then that character was dead for you, and you could not play them anymore. And we tried to play until all characters for one side had been killed in fatality moves. But we didn't know all the fatalities. So to make a character work that you did not know one for, you had to use one of the level-specific fatalities, like the one where you're playing in the sewer and you knock the guy into the sewer and they turn into a skeleton. That was fun, and it dragged on too long, and I don't think we finished it. But that was a good time. That's a good 16-bit fighting game memory that I have. Alright, so thanks for the comments, gentlemen. Let's head over to the YouTube channel and take a look at what we got. Alright. Got quite a few, actually. More than I was expecting, which is pleasing. Alex Swingle writes in, at minute 42. Half an hour might seem like a lot, but it's really not. You see, because time is a relative notion of measurement, and doesn't take into account the rapid acceleration that radiation causes to that exposed entity. Holy jeez, yes, 30 minutes is a long time. Let's see, there's a read more. That and the moment of spending 14 minutes to describe being in a long line at PAX and acknowledging the story was taking too long to state something that was so simple was gold. Thank you, Hemrock. That is from Alex Swingle, and it has a thumb up on it. So much appreciated, my friend. Yep, that's our brand of entertainment. Full descriptions of waiting in line. Every step of waiting in line will be described by my dear friend Hemrock. As far as half an hour being like a long time, I can't remember what we were talking about when I said that, because there are occasions where it doesn't really feel like a long time. Well, I don't know. I really don't know. Oh well, I'm not going to worry about it. A couple of these were double posts. Durabka put the one on the next round. He also put here. Dumaze wrote, Aaron deleted all the Retro Liberty videos and he has no backup and he's left the web. He did it to keep his family together. He said he was on YouTube / the internet way too much and now 100% focuses on his family. There are 50-ish of his shows still on Daily Motion, not yet deleted. It is sad he deleted all of them instead of just going inactive, but he did what he felt he needed to do. First of all, thanks for letting me know that. I liked Retro Liberty, but I did not follow them enough to know what the fate of their show was. As far as keeping your family together, I feel like if that's what it took, he did the right thing. You know, got to keep that family together. I agree that it sucks that his show is gone. I've gone over this with Jerry Terrifying in the past. If you're going to leave your channel, you do what you got to do, brother. But it seems like there's no real reason to remove shows that have already been made. Like you said in your comment, just let your channel go inactive. But maybe that's what he needed to do, especially if you feel like there's an addiction and that breaks the pull for you. Then, you know, good for him, I guess. I wish him all the best in the world. And that's, I really can't say anything else about that. That's that man's private life, and he's you know, trying to make it work best he can. So, God bless and Godspeed. All right, Vintage Video Game Geek has a bunch of comments. Let's shoot through it. He says, what do you mean they cleaned the rails of Space Mountain? Now, that's a good question, and I'll tell you what I mean. I was going every year at that time. All right, every year I'd go to Disney World. Now, one year, Space Mountain was down because they were cleaning the rails, as in they were dismantling the rail that it rides on and doing something, I don't know. It was a very bumpy ride, and I went the following year when it had returned to service, and it was no longer a bumpy ride. Now, whatever they were doing when it was down, I have no idea what their maintenance routine is, but it was a lot smoother and it felt a lot faster. Now, that could have just been an illusion, but that's what I felt when I wrote it. He writes, my channel is whatever. I'm getting like 400 views on the video, still having fun with reviews and such. Your interviews, I think, do very, very well. At least they're very well put together and fun to watch. However much people are watching them, I don't know. I think this gets into where YouTube is now versus where YouTube was when you and I both started. YouTube favors certain people, right? So if you want to learn about, like, if you're a guy watching videos, in order to find a channel like Vintage Video Game Geek, you really have to be suggested it by somebody. Hear people talking about this channel, see it in a shout out or something like that. It's very unreliable to imagine that it will be put up in like, some sort of recommended or videos kind of thing. That's the reason why we really need sites like The Next Round. It's simple. There's not a lot to it, but it's a collaborative work, and collaborative works are one way we as a community still have control over who gets exposure, and it's something we need. It keeps us as a community instead of under somebody's rule, I guess. I need to be on TCR, he writes. Yes, you do. You got Skype, right? I got Skype. Let's set it up, brother. I'm on Steam an awful lot. If I ever spot you on Steam, that's not going to work. We're gonna have to schedule something. We'll figure it out. We will schedule something. All right. I'll hit you up privately and we'll make something happen. Long live the Panzer. Yes, indeed. Long live the Panzer. The Switch co-op stuff sounds totally lame and boring. You know what? I was thinking that, but I couldn't picture what he was describing in terms of gameplay. And when you have other human beings involved, certain things can become fun that wouldn't be fun otherwise. I see this a lot in the indie game community. This is a game that, like, oh hell, why defend it? I don't know. Who knows? I agree with you. It sounds really lame and boring, but we'll see. I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt if I can see it and touch it, which kind of sounds like what Hemrock did. Hey, it's here. That's what they're letting me play. I might as well try it. But that certainly isn't enough to get me to buy a game. Holy crap. Death Adder posted his comment here as well. Thanks, Death Adder. The King of Rays 3 writes, Tiger Claw is back, which is an exciting comment to me because I don't know who that is. I really do not. I'm taking a look at the channel. Not anybody I recognize. Dead or Alive 5 win streak with 3 views. I'm watching that. Dead or Alive 5 clutch match with 8 views. There's Dead or Alive 5 videos. Hell yes. And only 7 subscribers. The King of Rays 3. We're checking this channel out, guys. And then we have Alex Swingle writes, the internet as a whole agrees you can be much sloppier with Armika, if you know what I'm saying. And there you have it. That is the fail bag, boys and girls. And that's Tiger Claw Radio episode 175. We made it 49 minutes in. Okay. I've got the Patreon thing. If you can help out, if we can get together to $20 monthly on Patreon, TCR becomes weekly again. So this is the part of the show I usually set aside to say, whatever you're doing out there in podcast land, if you're driving to work right now or if you're dealing with school, I want you to know that I'm rooting for you. And I really mean that. Give it your all. Find a way to have a good day, at least in some small aspect. All right? Go out there and make it a good one. I'll see you next month.